Today is Monday, January 25th, 2021. The time is 9:03 a.m. Officially calling this meeting to order. It is a special meeting of the airport and the Airport Advisory Board for updates. Attending by phone is Commissioner Bill Brooks, in person Commissioners Duncan and Fillios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. First item, review of the January 13th, 2021 Airport Advisory Board minutes, general discussion. Stephen, Joan?
Yes, before we start on that, I would like to, for the record, introduce Greg Gfeller, who is taking over as the Airport Advisory Board president or director. And I am our chair, I should say, and I'm there as the vice chair. So he's going to, I'm turning the meeting over to him.
Great.
Well, welcome and congratulations, Greg.
Thank you very much. I'm not quite sure how
Yeah,
that happened,
I know.
but
I know the feeling.
nevertheless. So Joan's here really to help shepherd me through this today because I've never gone through this. But really the only thing that I want to correct on the elected advisory board chair is that my nomination was seconded by Tim Combrick. So that's an error in the minutes that we'll have to correct. But so it should be a legal position, I hope. Other than that, there's not a lot to report on, except Stephen will cover his report in the staff minutes. But I just want to say that I'm happy to be the advisory chair. I've been a tenant at the airport since 1996. I think we have a great airport. And I know that as advisory board chair, I hope to work with Stephen and TO and the rest of the board in helping not only the board become educated in some of the things like what are grant assurances, what does it mean to be a Part 139 airport, what are the pros and cons, things like that, and then also just some general education with the community as well as the pilot community to hopefully help people understand why things are the way they are most of the time.
Okay.
I'm sure that going forward we'll still be talking about the 220 decoupling issue, and then I'm sure in time too, eventually after hearing from some of the FBOs and some of the pilots down the road, we need to figure out a way possibly to look for a control tower. Not right away, but possibly on an agenda and figure out what we can do to make that happen. So I look forward to working with the board, Stephen, TO, and the public on that.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. Stephen?
Yep, so the two items that we had for staff reports were just the decoupling meeting that we had with, and also kind of funding options that we've laid out previously. The airport, TO, Mr. Lang, all sat down for a meeting on the 28th of December. I kind of walked through some items, why we did created the funding methodology plan, things like that. My opinion was a really good meeting, and we kind of discussed some of the items that we were going to talk about with the FAA. That was a meeting that happened last week. So it was a very positive meeting, in my opinion, just kind of understanding what everybody was looking for. And out of that meeting, we did create that survey that you have a copy of.
Yes.
We've actually already passed that to the FBOs, our major tenants that would possibly need more than 7,400 feet, as well as send it out to a couple other people. Because of what this is doing is, if we can get more than 500 operations per year that require more than 7,400 feet, the FAA will pay for an extension. What that extension looks like would have to be based upon the numbers. The one issue is during the master plan, we only estimated about 150 to 200 operations per year require more than 7,400 feet. However, this will give us a hard data number. However, the airport's attempted this in the past, and response has always been extremely low. And we have to have concrete numbers to move forward with the FAA on it first. So, but we're trying to work towards it. We're trying to accomplish as much as we can, but within the ramification, the understanding that the FAA is very limited on its funding streams, and if you don't have justification, they won't entertain it.
Okay. So that was supposed to be down the road, but we're trying to get it done sooner if we can justify it? Is that?
To understand the FAA's positioning, to start, once you have justification, is a 7 to 10 year process.
Okay.
So the decoupling work would still be completed.
Okay, I was gonna, yeah.
However, before the extension would occur.
Okay.
Because we have to fit within their funding plans. And an extension is, we don't have exact numbers, but my guess is anywhere between $3 and $5 million just to extend 624.
Okay.
And so you have to create that need and justification, and then it becomes in the next funding method plan that we have. However, we have other pavement that needs to be replaced first before that. I look at Alpha in November, they're all gonna need replacement in not that long.
Okay.
Kind of moving on into the status updates, that was this item. It was the taxiway, the Delta North, which is the north side taxiway. We have run into some issues, and we actually have a meeting scheduled later today to discuss it with the contractor, where it does not meet specs. So we'll have to deal with that in the future. It could be as simple as grinding down some areas. It also could require them to rip out the entire top 2 inches.
Oh, boy.
So we will see what happens. Design work for the decoupling. The engineering brief for the summary is actually done and submitted to the FAA for review. This grant may change though, as we have shifted, the FAA has, at this point has allowed shifting of projects. That may change back depending on what funding mechanisms are available, but the FAA wants, as we've said, the FAA wants to see the safety issue addressed of the coupling of 2.4 and 2.0. So the perimeter fence is mostly installed with the exception of a couple items. We have done a change order, and the FAA has agreed to it, is a motorized gate at the ARF station. That's about a $45,000 add-on, and they're willing to add that into the grant though.
I think we approved that yesterday.
Yes, you
or
approved it last week.
last week, sorry, last Tuesday, yeah.
So the FAA is on board with that. We'll have to modify the TO's contract as well, because the FAA did something I've never seen them do before, and they required a redraw of the entire plan set.
Because of the gate?
Yes. So it'll be, right now it's looking about a $10,000 change order for TO to do it. And it's about where it should be because of the work. But that'll be in the next, I believe, in 2 weeks is when we're planning on having that on.
Okay.
The Ramsey Road land release. There's actually a couple land releases going on right now. One is for the remainder of the 50 acres south of the airport shops, parks and waterways, things like that. We've actually submitted that package for the land release under what's called 163. And this would, to create fund, the idea is to sell that to create funding mechanism for the admin SRE building, as well as purchase SRE building, hopefully, as well as land purchase if possible. The Ramsey Road land release is actually being submitted, I believe, this week, so that City of Hayden can then start moving forward with land acquisition.
Okay.
The Ramsey Road land release has will eventually have no cost to us because we will roll in the sale price of the land into their purchase price for this work. Snow removal equipment building, we have 2 weeks ago, we did have the opening. There was only one submittal for the RFP for the contract, for the CMAR or GC.
CMGC.
CMGC.
Idaho, yeah.
Yeah, I know we talked about it differently.
And so, I believe this week or next week, there'll be a notice of award, and we'll start working on the contract with them. Based upon their prices, it looks like for the design work only will be about $20,000, or maybe 20 or 30, I don't remember off the top of my head. So we'll be, which is a fairly reasonable number just for the design work. The big thing to keep in mind is we are separating these into 2 separate contracts and 2 separate subtasks and everybody. So good chunk is going to be FAA design for the snow removal itself. The admin building will be locally, but we're separating it so that we do not have to do the admin side if we don't have a funding source, and the FAA side will pick up a good chunk of the funding source for that.
Okay.
And you'll see that split in parking lots, some possible utilities, a lot of different things will be like that.
And then I know we only got one, but do they meet the qualifications? Are you satisfied with them?
Yeah, they do meet the qualifications, and they do, based upon their work, they do appear to be firm that will be able to accomplish it.
Okay. Keep going.
That is, they also, we do also have some DBE issues, just we're actually going to meet with Jody here this week, or next week, to discuss some of the DBE issues. Mostly because this last grant, we had a goal of being about 2% for DBE. We had a 0%.
For the benefit of everyone, define DBE.
It is disadvantaged businesses. It's basically minority-owned, women-owned,
Oh,
different
okay.
different things.
Okay.
We did. I look at for example, the fence grant. We got about $2.1 million this year. There's only 3 fence contractors in the region, so you're going to have probably all of them do not qualify as a DBE.
Right.
So. Contracting-wise, we'll always try to work to get that goal. So we're gonna have some conversations with the FAA regarding a different portion of the FAA to discuss our DBE goals and things like that.
Okay.
That's it for the project updates.
Just a quick question for everyone's benefit. What's the length of 624, current length?
624 is 7,400 feet today.
Okay, so we're talking about what, 77?
If we follow the plans that are in the master plan, we have 2 extension opportunities, one on
ahead.
each end, and they're each about 600 feet. So you would eventually be able to get to 8,600
Oh,
feet.
8,600,
Would
okay.
be is the ultimate design for 624.
Okay.
But they would be done in phases for, if we do have justification of 500 ops and they say that they need 8,200 feet, then we could be able to justify both extensions. But if you have somebody that says, well, I only need 7,800 feet, well, that's just one extension.
It's just one extension.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so you ready for the second item?
I am.
Any more questions for Stephen, Leslie, Bill? Okay, we'll move on. Cost of utility installation for the new airport facility, potential action item. Go ahead, Stephen.
What this is as we are getting into some more design items for the north side hangar development, part of their leases state that they are responsible for extending utilities. Currently, we are at 1 signed lease and 4 additional leases on the north side of the north development is all I'm speaking of. We currently have 5 interested parties. 3 of them are Stancraft and 2 others are 2 other people. And they are responsible for extending sewer and water and all utilities and roadway infrastructure along the area. The issue that has been brought up is if we do that, we'll have up to 9 different connection points, which can cause a weak point in the system. And what I'm proposing here is that the county actually pays to install all utility infrastructure and road infrastructure. And then we charge back each tenant based upon the linear foot of their lease width. So for example, rough estimate, you're looking at about $90,000 per lot. But we would have to, obviously we'd have to pay for this up front. I've already talked to Dina Darrow about this. Her statement was we already have a good portion of the funding available in the funding account. And it seems like a good way to do it. We can also charge an administrative fee, so there can be some costs that we can see added to it for us. But realistically, you're very minor. But it solves a lot of the issues instead of having multiple joints in the pavement, multiple sections in between. And it helps solve a long-term problem on the north side. TO is estimating it to be about $900,000 to do it, but we would be reimbursed, my guess, within 2 years, based upon how fast our hangars are moving.
Okay, so precisely what's involved?
It'd be sewer extension, water main extension, roadway. It could also be fence relocation as well. So there's quite a bit of things that would be included in it, and it's a little less than a mile.
Okay. When do you perceive starting this?
If we could, we'd like to start it this spring. start this summer, end of summer, because both Stancraft plans on starting breaking ground for their hangar on the north side this year. You're probably looking at a 12-month build cycle, maybe a little bit less. So we could at least start on the design phase of this project this year with a bid out later this in the fall with an early spring start. That way it allows us to be ahead of any construction that we expect.
Okay. Where's this money coming from?
It would come from our
budget?
Our budget. However, we couldn't cover it all, but we would be reimbursed, my guess is very quickly, for a good portion of it.
By the FAA?
No.
By the hangar tenants.
hangar
Oh, by the hangar tenants, I'm sorry, the chargeback, okay.
Yeah. So if you think about when we do a subdivision, a major subdivision, then the developer has to pay for all that, the sewer, the water, and
Yeah, and
the
they
roads.
charge it off to the,
Exactly, but Stephen is suggesting that the county pay for all this, and then the tenants pay back.
okay, I thought maybe there might have been a split between the tenants and the FAA.
No, the FAA typically does not pay for infrastructure of this nature.
Okay, okay.
We have some oddity of our sewer system was paid for by the FAA 40-plus years ago, but there's nothing tied to it anymore.
Okay.
Good.
And-
That's the other thing we have to talk about is HARBs going forward, too, so.
And what long a period for payback? What are you assuming?
I'm assuming about 2 years from the time we complete it to move to getting paid back fully.
Okay, all right.
Because on that image right now where we're at on the northern side is at the end of the K in Park of the image attached. So we are more than halfway through working on a lease process today. So it's I have a feeling there will be more and more people that are going to build up there. We're going to be full on that area as well.
Okay. All right, so then you indicate an action item. Are you looking for a vote today?
I'm looking just for direction to see if this is be amenable to the board. And if it's not, we'll just have the splits. They'll have to pay to install everything. If it is, we can start working with TO to draft a contract, to start working on the design and moving down that path.
Okay, so what's the alternative, if any, if we don't do this?
Each tenant would be responsible for installing the
For installing,
utility.
okay.
Yeah. And the issue runs into is we would then own that infrastructure, and you now have multiple joints that can create a fail point later.
Okay, okay.
So have you talked to HARBs about this yet?
I've spoken to Harbs, they're aware of the northern developments, but not specifically about this.
Okay.
Okay, so you're looking for direction as to whether or not to proceed.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, I want to sit down with Stephen and HARBs and make sure that we're all on the same page and what it means for us to do this.
Okay. Bill?
Yes, I'm fine with proceeding with this.
Okay,
Sounds good. I
you have
will
your direction.
start working forward on it.
Okay, great. So that concludes the second item. Moving on to the third, 12121. That was the FAA, National Business Aviation Association, NBAA, and Aircraft Owners Pilots Association, AOPA, meeting review discussion. So this is one that occurred last week.
Yes, it occurred on Thursday of last week, or Wednesday. And in my opinion, I thought it was a very good meeting. It was actually at a request of Mr. Lang and NBAA to meet with the FAA.
Yeah?
And Bill and I both attended, and I think this was not our meeting to lead. We didn't say much throughout it. However, I know that there was an article written about things that were said in I believe it was a debrief based upon the emails I've gotten from NBAA. And unfortunately, it does not appear that everyone was aware that Ms. Hardy was actually in attendance for their debrief. And NBAA actually sent multiple emails apologizing to not agreeing with some of the statements in it, as well as AOPA. And I can also tell you that the FAA is not exactly happy at the moment because of what they felt was an educational and discussion meeting be changed into something based upon that article appears to be different.
And when was the article published? I haven't seen it.
On Saturday, I believe.
Saturday.
I didn't see it either. Okay, go ahead.
The FAA has already requested a discussion with myself and Bill for this Wednesday to discuss this. However, I have a feeling I had hoped to be able to get the FAA to do a presentation similar to what we did on December 3rd. However, I have a feeling that they will not be open to doing that now. This was an unfortunate end to that meeting, in my opinion. I thought it was a very positive meeting. Mr. Lang spoke, in my opinion, we took some things to heart on that meeting about things that we could change and how we plan stuff. I think the FAA did a very good job as well, just explaining their case of why. So it's unfortunate that this may damage our position as well. The FAA may move projects around. I don't know. We still don't, as this just happened. Like I said, we're gonna have a conversation with them on Wednesday and see what is occurring.
What do you anticipate you're going to be discussing on Wednesday?
It was to be a debrief about the meeting. However, since the article and some of the emails that have gone back and forth, it will probably change into what the FAA is willing to do going forward. So I don't know how this is going to play out, to be honest.
You want to speculate?
I have a feeling that the FAA will stay on course for projects that we've started right now. However, they're going to be withdrawing themselves from a lot of the other items we had hoped to, just through pilot discussions and educational things like that. I have a feeling they're going to withdraw themselves from those things. And I think they'll agree to still stay on course for the projects that we've listed of doing the 624 rehab on 2022, 2023, with decoupling occurring in 2025. I believe that's going to occur. However, it may change. I don't know.
Okay, so why, well, okay, I guess you can only speculate at this point. Any idea who invited the press?
From what I understand, it was a debrief between MBAA, AOPA, and the pilot group. Mr. Lang could answer that more than I can.
Okay. Clearly, we can't stop the press from participating or listening. It was a public meeting.
It was not.
It was not a public meeting.
No, I was talking about the debrief that happened last week.
That was not our meeting.
It wasn't our meeting, it was just between
The pilot group, MBAA, and AOPA.
Okay, so this wasn't a meeting that was posted.
This was not our meeting at all.
Okay.
So this was, even the FAA, the meeting before, that was not our meeting as well. We did not call it, so.
Okay, I see, my perspective here, and clearly I don't have all the facts, but is that the FAA has been pretty gracious in accommodating the Pilots Association and other folks that have, issues with the decoupling. And I think when we overstep our bounds, and I hope we haven't, but if we have, it's not going to be pretty.
You're correct, and kind of in regards to something that's not pretty, Shoshone County, we did speak about it at the advisory board as well. Shoshone County just got a Part 13 complaint filed against them, and they were in the wrong. So they're currently at the jeopardy of losing their grant assurance, or losing all future grants.
Okay, once again, for anybody listening in, Part 13, please
So Part
define.
13 is a federal complaint that you're failing to insure your grant assurances, i.e. maintaining your airport. In this case was hangar use. However, Shoshone County, based upon what I read, was found to be in default of their grant assurances. And they are currently having to provide a remedy to address that.
but at this time, Kootenai County's not in
Kootenai
default of
Co-
any
Kootenai County
assurances.
is not.
Right.
But you must be, as a commission, you need to be aware that the FAA is looking in the region, and they are very serious about grant assurances.
Okay, is there anything else we need to know?
I don't believe so. Bill may have a different perspective on the meeting, but in my opinion, it was very positive. It I thought it was a very good meeting, but based upon the article, it does not appear it was.
You're saying there were some inaccuracies in the article?
Based upon the emails that I have gotten, there appears to be.
You know, here's the thing. I've been dealing with this now for 4 years, and there are things that I've learned, and quite frankly, unlearned, or just over time because it changes as frequently as it does. When we bring in the press or anyone who is new to this topic, it's very confusing, it's complex, there are a lot of issues, and things can be misdocumented, okay, or misrepresented, and that's part of the problem. This is complex. And it's hard enough for us with as many meetings and as many different topics that we deal with. It almost has to be equally hard for a press reporter, any press reporter. And that's my concern. But my bigger concern, of course, is the impact with the FAA.
And I should have a better understanding of what that impact is by the end of this week. Based upon the language that was used in the email that I got from Steve Engelbrecht, the acting ADO manager, it is the strongest language I've ever seen a federal official write.
And that is?
Just how unhappy they were.
Okay. Bill, you were on the conversation? Do you want to jump in?
Yes, I was on the call with the FAA, and I said nothing. I think Stephen asked one or two simple questions, and other than that, we were there and listened to the FAA and Keith Lang primarily talk about the decoupling. And the FAA made it very clear that just because you're a pilot doesn't mean you understand airport geometry. And they said, we've been working on this, and, you know, if Kootenai County does not want this money, we will find someplace else very quickly in Montana or Idaho for it to go to. So we need your commitment that we're on board here. They weren't at all argumentative. They encouraged everyone to speak their mind who was on the call, and they were very helpful. But at the end of the day, what they said was, gee, Mr. Lang, we're sorry. We really have looked at your proposals and can't accommodate you and still fund this. And I want the FAA to be clear that we appreciate their patience with us to date, and that we were not trying to out them, if you will, through the press. That is not what happened from the county standpoint. And all I can say is good things about the FAA and the FAA employees who were part of that conference. And by the way, I think Stephen did a good job too, because I know he has some feelings about this. But pretty much what they told us was exactly what Stephen has been telling us from the beginning. So that's all I have to say.
And kind of talking about funding right now, with the plan of rehabbing the runway and things like that, of the current project plan and list, the FAA is somewhere committed to between $8 and $12 million to the county just to complete that work. So it's a very significant number in the next 5 years that we anticipate receiving from the FAA.
So is there any chance, in your opinion, based on the next communication, that the FAA simply comes back and says, here's the deal, you're going to decouple, take it or leave it?
Yes, there is that possibility. They could say that we're going to shift the plan back to being in 2022, 2023. We're going to give you money to do that. We expect it to be done. Because they've done that to other airports.
I think that's pretty much what they said during this meeting, but in a very nice way.
They could easily do that, and they've done that to other airports in the past, saying, we will not give you another dime until that's fixed and addressed.
So if that were the case, what would that do to us? Let's assume we say, okay, fine, the message is noted, we're going ahead, we're decoupling, end of discussion, let's go.
We continue down the path of doing the decoupling planning project. We would then, if they said we want it done in 2022, 2023, we move forward with that.
Do you see jeopardy to any other associated funding or unassociated funding from them?
most of our funding is tied to construction and things like, in that item. I don't foresee it as long as we move forward with it.
Okay.
If we don't, the FAA clearly stated in that meeting, if you don't meet our standards, we don't maintain that piece of pavement.
So the message that I think I'm getting, and I guess maybe Bill, you want to jump in, Leslie as well, but Bill was on the call, is take it or leave it.
And not so much a nicer terms.
Well, yes, they're more diplomatic than that.
It's, and that's the
A
issue. is
very
that-
nice way.
Yeah, they will not fund anything that doesn't meet their standards.
Right, but if we leave it, they leave us.
They will not fund anything,
Anything
any
to-
associated pavement to it.
Understood. Okay. Anything else, Leslie, Bill? Okay.
No, that's about it for me.
So your next communication with the FAA is what, did you say Wednesday?
Right now, it's planned for Wednesday. We're finalizing the time and everything. So
And topic?
it was to be a briefing and basically an overview of what the meeting was. However, I have a feeling it has shifted into what the FAA's opinion is right now. So,
Just because this has gotten so convoluted and we seem to be meandering, where are we headed today? It is I'm of the opinion that we made a decision some time ago, or at least provided direction, that we are proceeding with the decoupling. Is that a correct assumption?
yes, it is. The FAA, in response to the pilot community's comments, has allowed us to shift that project back to the decoupling to 2025.
Okay.
And then do some enabling work so that we always have a runway of greater than 5,400 feet available to the users. And that's the idea, is so that 5,400 feet is what 220 is today. And it would allow the continued operation of most of the aircraft throughout that use Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
However, this is very unusual for them. Usually their big concern, and they may require an additional agreement with us, is that that we would take the money to rehab 624 and then not do the decoupling work.
Well, I think that's ridiculous. I mean, if we're signing an agreement, we're signing an agreement.
They've had issues with airports do it in the past. So that's their big concern, is that you take $3-4 million to redo a surface and then just let it sit and then want to deal with it in 20 years. So.
Jeez. Okay. Anything else? Greg, Joan? Bill?
No, I have nothing further.
Thank you, Stephen. Leslie, anything?
I'm good.
Okay. Public comment?
I guess one of the comments here about this article in the paper that's, buried in the local section, and I read through it. I'm not sure what everybody is actually in an uproar over it. Just for the record, Ms. Hardy was introduced to everybody in that voice meeting, conference meeting, Zoom meeting, whatever it was, prior to them getting started in our conversation. We were supposed to have a debrief prior to that one with the public, meaning all the pilots and everybody wanted to join. And that was the thought, we would have a debrief before, as the MBAA meeting went over by, I guess we were there an hour and a half, 2 hours. 2 hours. So then we rolled into the 1 o'clock, there was a public meeting. Ms. Hardy was on the call, and I made it known that Ms. Hardy writes for the newspaper. I saw her name there. And everybody is aware, MBAA asked that there would be discretion. To what extent, I don't know. Call that, but we continued on with the meeting. So I guess I would ask, I'm not sure what the uproar is that everybody's dealing with, and I just don't see that point, but I'm sure that's just my view. As far as this resurfacing, I understand it's a 10-day contract, or 10-day to do the resurfacing.
That's what we're estimating right now, yeah.
So I don't see it being they're wielding this over our heads. It's a big thing to do that, well, we've done you such a big favor to push it to 26 for 10 days, especially when you're going to do it in September, October, and maybe do, 10 days they're just wielding this over your head. I feel like we've gone back since day one, 3 months. We started with the started, and the $3 million could be spent to do something much more beneficial to the airport for safety, for operations, and capability and whatnot. So, anyway, if you guys have any more questions for me, I'm glad to ask or answer any of those questions.
I don't have any. Leslie? Bill? Any questions for Keith?
No,
Stephen?
no.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, then. Yeah, Greg, please.
One more thing for Nancy. Next week, at our next meeting next month, we'll be reviewing our Idaho public records laws and Idaho open meeting laws. Right out before our meeting.
Good. Thank you for that. Thank you, Nancy, for beating everybody up. She's beating up all the advisory boards about the open meeting law, so. And yes, we can get into a lot of trouble if we don't adhere. Okay, then. So the time is now 9:40. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Keith.